The Enlightenment brought us the myth of disenchantment. This idea that we live in a dead universe filled with dead matter and that everything is dead. Nothing actually matters. Nothing is real. This nihilistic, the cosmos. The problem is our everyday lives tend to tell us otherwise. And what we've started seeing lately is a real backlash to this idea that nothing has purpose, meaning, or anything deeper than chemistry and physics. I tend to agree with that. I think it is time for us to not only embrace the enchantment that we never lost, but also to very actively re-enchant our lives so that we are actually living in this wonderful, awe-filled world that surrounds us every day. So let's talk about re-enchanting our lives as we walk together down creation's paths. Hello, everyone. My name is Charlie. I am a Chris Druid and priest of Bridget.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brian. I am a Christo-pagan druid and sous chef to the dog.
Today, we are going to be talking about re-enchanting our lives, which will eventually continue into all manner of wonderful magical places. But this is part of our Druidcraft 101 series and really builds off what we are talking about in yesterday's episode about learning to be spiritual gardeners, reconnecting to that subtle awe and just world of blessing that is all around us. Because it's very easy for us to miss not just the good things in our lives. And I'm not just talking about having a gratitude journal, though something like that can really help with this practice. But it's easy for us to miss all of the subtle ways that energy is being manipulated around us and in us by the powers that be and the systems enacting upon us. Well, before we get into all that, if you haven't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, whatever the terminology happens to be on whatever app you listen to us on. We do original Christo-pagan and Druid episodes 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. And we are currently going through our Druidcraft 101 to help people get started with, or at least have a shared language to discuss matters of magic. And you don't want to miss an episode. All right, let's get into it, shall we? Alrighty. So when I say re-enchanting our lives, what I'm talking about is starting to understand that magic is not just about the subtle energies that we think of. It's not just the oogie boogie stuff. It's not the stuff that you charge into a crystal or you collect in moon water. It's not just the stuff that you invoke in spells and rituals or encounter in deep meditation. Magic exudes from every word, action, and intention that we put out into the universe. The more intentional and the more focus behind it, the stronger it is. But the more people who are focused on the same intention, the stronger the magic is, regardless of how much effort was put into generating it in the first place. This kind of subtle magic permeates all of life. It goes through all of the spoken and unspoken rules that we just know to follow and just obey in everyday life. Like when you walk into a cafe, you look for the line leading up to the counter and you get in line. You then follow the line up to the front. You give them your name, knowing that they're probably going to misspell it. You give them your order, and then you go and you wait for your beverage. There's no contract that's how things have to go. And in fact, we see people trying to escape that system all the time by trying to cut in line or walk all the way to the front. And everyone else in the line reacts because these subtle rules in this situation have been violated. We have an unspoken, unwritten contract that we are going to wait in line and do it in this way. That is one of the subtle forms of magic and one of the subtle forms of control. And once you start seeing it in these little things, like how you go through a checkout line in a store or how you interact with somebody in a public space, you start seeing these unwritten rules.
Along that note, later in this episode, I'm going to give everyone a practice on how to get luck in their lives, through re-enchantment, how to live a luckier life.
Luck really is one of those things that
It
comes
really
into
is.
this. Looking for those little serendipities, things that just happen to come together, those little synchronicities of things that happen at the same time. This is where I think people who have fallen for the myth of disenchantment don't understand what I'm saying. And I want to be very clear here. Just because things are synchronous does not mean that they're connected. Just because things happen together or seem to follow each other doesn't make them connected. Just proximity is not causation. But if every time these things occur together, then you can start discerning connections between them. We've talked about this before in learning how to understand your relationships to the moon, for example. If you always have certain energy levels around certain moon phases, if because you're tracking your energy levels and you notice that you rise with this phase and you fall with that one, you have learned a cycle in yourself that may just be a cycle in yourself and have absolutely nothing to do with the moon, or it could have everything to do with the moon. At a certain point, if they coincide, it doesn't really matter where the causation lies because you can start using the moon to be predictive. If you're in these kind of 2 week cycles, then you're noticing, oh, here's this moon phase is rising. Oh, I need to make sure that I'm probably going to have low energy around there. So I shouldn't be scheduling high energy activities around that period of time. And as long as that pattern holds, then it will help you out so much in your life to honor it.
That's where it's both very, very important and very beneficial to have the both and mindset, especially when re-enchanting your life. Being able to hold both of those thoughts in your mind, like as you pointed out with the moon, where observed, there is this correlation that's happening. That, like in my case, new moons are very rough for me. They just it's just a thing that happens. Does it mean the new moon brings a depressive state and brings the most difficult points in my life? No. But I'm allowing myself to have both thoughts and recognizing that, yes, most of those instances are tied to the new moon so that I can still re-enchant my life by recognizing that and also not getting into the realm of delusion.
And also ensuring that you're doing things that are more positive and helping with your mood and stuff around that time period.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some kinds of this magic are very easy. I have a really bad leg. I have a really bad leg. I know when I need to load up the weather app and see what the weather's going to be because I start feeling that certain tingle around my kneecap. I know what that tingle means. That means we're at least going to get rain. Sometimes I feel what literally feels like a crack of thunder in my leg. And I'm like, oh, there's a storm brewing, Annie. And I know that I need to be keeping special attention to know if I need to set up so that I can go and to shelter if I need to because of severe weather. I can choose to see that as what it is, the pressures in the air causing these pains to occur in me, those pressure differentials, or I can take it for what it is. Oh, I need to just get ready for the weather because all of the other thoughts doesn't help me. And that's really what a lot of this practice of re-enchantment is. Yes, I can go through each time. Oh, I just had a crack in my knee. Therefore, the air pressure must be changing. Therefore, there's probably a front on the way toward my house, which means, therefore, that there's probably going to be some kind of rain. I can skip from one to the other. My knee hurts, rain's coming. I don't have to go through the whole logical syllogism each and every time. And so, while there is a correlation between these two things, I don't have to walk through the causal chain. I can just accept the, if you will, basic magic that, oh, my kneecap is tingling, rain is coming. And that's kind of the simplest way that we can see this. I can pretty much determine which kind of weather we're going to be getting by certain other pains in my body, which I find really, really interesting. My right elbow hurts if we're going to get snow. And so when the weatherman's like, it's going to snow, it's going to snow. And I'm just like, no, it's not going to snow. I don't know why my right elbow hurts when we're going to get snow. That doesn't even make sense to me. I looked at the like science that I don't know, but it happens. And so I know this. I have seen this through this pattern repeat over and over and over again. And thus I am able to have that connection to it through the sensations that I'm feeling in my own body. We can go beyond that into seeing how these relationships start working when we go out into the wider world. We can see how these subtle rules, this these real, I mean, really are magic that we rely on every day. These incantations that we may have spoken together in our constitution, our laws, or whatever, we expect to be there to guide things. As we're learning very harshly in our country right now, there are some people that don't believe that they have to do what is written down on the paper. They're wanting to reject the contract that we've all agreed to live under. And that is problematic in so many ways. but that's because they're bringing a different energy in. And we can start seeing how these energies are reacting and interacting with each other. And that gives us ways to fight them. Because, well, as for now, at least in our country, we still have elections. So when something really terrible happens and we flood the congressional offices with complaints, and the Congress people start getting maybe a little antsy, a little edgy, little concerned about their jobs, change happens. It may not be complete change, it may not be total change, and it may not be final change, but change happens. They exerted a sort of subtle energy against us. We exerted a subtle energy against them. Change happened in the universe. And that is this act of re-enchantment, realizing that our words and our deeds have power and that we are under the control of the words and deeds of others, and starting to see those threads as they weave and interweave through our lives so that we have more control and understanding of the situations that we find ourselves in. This really is an art of situational awareness, and one that can really help us to understand and kind of put a layer over what's happening in our lives so that we can start seeing the tools that we have, deal with and cope with certain situations as they happen in our lives. This sort of subtle awareness, like I said, needs to apply on every level, from how we talk to ourselves to how we talk to our friends group, and just certain norms that we start noticing out there. I'm not going to call anybody out on this podcast, but we've noticed that certain people with certain bumper stickers, for some reason, think they own the road. They don't drive well. They are dangerous drivers. So when we see those bumper stickers, we give them a wide berth because we don't want to get into a car accident. We've seen them get into too many car accidents. So we either find a way to pass them, turn off and take a different route, or make sure that we're giving enough space because they have placed a talisman on their vehicle to warn us of them being bad drivers. And I don't know why, through this arts of subtle energy, they all decided to use the same symbol, but they did. And it's interesting that you can just see that symbol on the car and decide, oh, I need to watch out for those. Put it in the comments if you can tell me exactly what that symbol is.
Yeah, big points. It's also a wonderful opportunity to re-enchant your life through blessings as well. I always try to remember to give just general thanks. Sometimes I say it out loud, or I just put that energy out to the universe when I see that bumper sticker or the talisman on the car warning me. This is where you can just that simple blessing of thank you for the warning sign and for the awareness to perceive the warning sign as such and to avoid the dangers that lie ahead. Something as simple as that. It re-enchants your life. It's working with that law of returning tide, because as you're putting that out there, especially regularly putting it out there, you're increasing the chance that that comes back, that more of those warning signs will pop up in your life, and you'll not only have them in your life, but you'll also perceive them, you will see them and be able to take action.
Because that is the real art of re-enchantment, is learning, is training yourself to see again these things that have correlations that are important to you and your situation. This is also why, like, one of the easiest magical arts to learn and to practice is courtesy. Courtesy
Mhm.
is the most powerful of magical arts. If you know how to properly smile at another person, say your please and thank yous, and just be courteous, you are weaving a spell that can change a lot of interactions with people, both just randomly on the street and in various situations that you find yourself in. Because courtesy as an act have kind of gone the way of the dinosaur. But we can
It
Jurassic
really
Park
has.
that. Yeah.
People
But
are
you don't.
always amazed at holiday season how I can move through public spaces so easily when there are so many hurried and angry individuals out there just looking for targets to attack. And they're like, how do you, like, I've had people literally be like, how do you spend 4 hours, 8 hours interacting with the public and not be attacked once and not even have like an angry person once or in your presence? And it's like, that's it though. It's that courtesy, that starting with the subtle body language, making sure that I am maintaining myself in a happy place so that I'm putting that happiness out there and that calm and joy to the point that it almost creates a bubble around me that just entering into my presence saturates somebody in that. You can almost think of it like the second Ghostbusters. Like my presence is that goo, that happy goo, that emotional goo that you just coming into my presence, you're going to get hosed with it. And good luck trying to stay angry. It's some people have actually observed it and noticed like there was an angry person coming up to you, but somehow even when they started to try to yell, their yell just faded into short statements. You could tell there was frustration. It was still anger behind their tone, but it just mellowed and just lost all of its fury.
That's because in our brains, we have mirror neurons. Like this is like the secret behind the magic there. We have mirror neurons. Our brain wants to mimic what it's seen in other people. So if a group is very agitated, our brain tries to become very agitated. If we have to have a one-on-one reaction with somebody and they look bored, upset, not wanting to deal with you, our brain will mirror that and return that energy. The way that we can take control in these situations is to apply the energy that we want back through the law of the returning tide. Now, it doesn't work on everybody, but it works on most people because when you're greeted with a smile, your mirror neurons fire off and you smile back. You might not even realize that you smiled back, but there's a very good chance you're going to smile. But you're going to smile back because your mirror neurons smiled off and told you to smile. Now that smile sends a whole chemical cascade through the body, signaling certain emotional states that you should have. And thus the whole system gets fired up and ready to act. Courtesy is kind of the earliest and easiest step in learning what Gandhi called satyagraha or soul power. Because when you are courteous with people, it is disarming. It is disarming to go to a protest and passively resist. When you look at the civil rights movement of the 60s and you look at the resistance movements in India, that passive resistance really does throw them off their game. And it generates so much more energy because people see this hostility going at these people that are not being hostile back. And it's like, why are you doing this? Why are you being like that? And learning those arts, applying soul force, and learning those arts of getting into how you can actually interact with people and learning to radiate that basic blessing and that basic joy and wonder and those things that you want to have return on the tide. And remember, like we said in yesterday's episode, it's not doing it for the purpose of getting them back. It's just getting to the place where you are that beautiful candle going down the street bringing light, that you're just that wonderful gift floating through life, giving out those blessings that you want to see back. And yeah, some people will think that you're being very Pollyanna. I get that accusation all the time, that I'm just naive, that I'm just living in wishful thinking. But I have learned throughout my life that you don't always get back exactly what you give out, but you generally get back a version of what you give out, and that you can alter the hostility, the threat of various things coming your way through the energy that you yourself contribute to the situation. And yes, sometimes that means you need to have access to various other arts of self-defense and what have you. Yes, that is true. I'm not saying that you can smile your way out of an armed robbery, though I did do that once and confused that robber a lot. He still got my money, but he didn't beat me up, which was a big part of the attempt. Like he charged me and couldn't actually go through with the violence. I knew the situation wouldn't be ended until he got my money. So he got my money. I got to keep my wallet. Things did not progress the way that he had intended. And he was very confused about this. And I heard him talking about it with his co-conspirator as they walked away. So yeah, it doesn't always make things perfect in the outcome, right? But it's better. He had intended to literally hit me and knock me to the ground and then kick me several times and then just take my wallet. But that's not what happened. Learning these arts is power.
So, how to add luck into your life? Because a lot of times people are just like amazed at how lucky I seem to be. And part of that was through very careful cultivation and through re-enchanting my life and re-enchanting luck back into my life. The first step, you start with observing serendipitous moments, especially really all serendipitous moments, but it's observing with an appreciation for how those things just came together.
Explain serendipity for somebody who isn't familiar with
Okay,
that.
so for instance, earlier as we're preparing for lunch, I wanted to thaw some things in the microwave. So I started the microwave timer while we were talking, and then we came in and got ready to record this episode. We hit record. We have some intro music that we listen to just before we start talking. The timer went off and it beeped in perfect timing with the music, bringing a lot of joy to Charlie. That's a serendipitous moment. I hadn't planned the timing of the microwave. I had no thought of the intro music or that it would even bring joy. In fact, the entire intention of that was just to get a jump start prepping for our next meal. The serendipitous of it was that it brought so much joy to Charlie and has helped the atmosphere of this entire episode be so much better than than it would have been without it. That's a serendipitous moment. And so the first thing I do in re-enchanting is I recognize all the good that that lucky moment, lucky thing that it brought. And then I give thanks for that and offer it back as just a thank you and a blessing, just back generally to the universe for that little thing just happening to be just this lucky little coincidence. I try to observe all the blessings it brought and then put that back out as a thank you. And I also try to make sure to observe the magic of that that's happening. Like we said, with that both and mindset, I know that I didn't sit back and cast my level 3 wizard spell to create a blessing for this episode beforehand, like in some fantasy novel, both and I also recognize that I took intentional action that brought a blessing into our lives and brought a lucky moment. And so, with the law of returning tide, I want to make sure that I'm cultivating that, sowing those seeds, as we talked about yesterday with the farmer mindset. I'm giving that thanks and I'm putting it back out. And then it's just something that I do as often as I can throughout every single day because I know with that law of returning tide and with sowing the seeds, I want to recognize it over and over again and give thanks for it over and over again to encourage that to happen more and more in my life. And it just becomes a thing that just builds upon itself to the point where so many people are like, you know, how are you so lucky? I can't believe like this happened. And you just, how did you even navigate through that? Like, they're just shocked and amazed. And I'm like, part of me wants to go, well, I cast a level 8 wizard luck spell on myself and have all this grand luck power. And yes, on some levels I did. But on the other level, I recognize that it's just re-enchanting my own life and putting that out there over and over and over again has allowed that luck to cultivate. Going off that farming thing, I've sowed these seeds, watched for the right seasons, allowed it to be fertilized, nurture, and to grow. And then when I harvest, to make sure that I'm not just eating everything I harvest, that I'm saving more seeds to sow back into the earth to cultivate more and more and more, and allowing it to grow more. And that is how you can end up living a lucky life.
That's a great way to understand the entire practice of re-enchantment because I think the magic of blessing and gratitude are often overlooked and are seen as ends in and of themselves when they are the really the root of all of our magical practices. When you look at how everything starts, it starts with blessing your tools, blessing your workspace, blessing the area that you're in when you get going into some of the deeper magics that we're eventually going to talk about. Well, that kind of blessing is something that can exist throughout all of your life. And the more we practice that kind of blessing, that kind of gratitude, that kind of just learn to radiate back to the universe all of the good things that are coming our way, treating each one as another log on the fire to make your radiance glow brighter. The more influence and power we are actually going to be putting out. And that will attract more to us. And these beneficial cycles begin to grow. But it all starts with basic awareness. And it starts with starting to see these moments and feeding those moments so that more of those moments come back. And
Connecting
that
back in.
because all magic is relational. And if you're not developing those relationships, not just with other people, and this is where the animist in me really comes out here, but learning those relationships with various plants and various seasons and times and various places and materials, even. If we're not developing those relationships, we're going to be losing out on a lot of the magic that we could have flowing through our lives. And so start noticing, what are those magics? What are those powers? What are those things that really connect and ground you? What are those things that bring more blessing, more luck, more productivity, more whatever it is you're looking for? And then find ways to be grateful for them. Because here's the trick in using this blessing gratitude model that we miss in our kind of Western way of thinking. Usually we sit back and go, oh, if I listen to this kind of music before I write more. Or if I listen to this kind of music while I'm writing, I write more. So our colonizing hat from our ancestors comes on, we put it on our heads, and we start shackling that kind of music. Well, I only listen to that kind of music when I write. I don't listen to it any other time. And I'm about to write, so I'm going to listen to this music now. You better give me the thing that I'm looking for, that inspiration. And we take this very controlling, domineering mode with those energies. And then we notice them get weaker and weaker and weaker. And well, that trick doesn't work anymore. Well, of course it doesn't. You locked it in a cage. And so that's really the power that we're trying to get you to see here, is the real relational art is learning to welcome and release with hopes that it will return. And once you can learn that cycle, that basic cycle of taking in and releasing back, and then taking in again and releasing back, you start developing those currents of circulation, and things will grow, and the things that you're looking for will prosper. Also, just because I don't think I could go too many episodes without bringing in the billionaire class. This is the problem with the billionaire class, because the more and more money gets locked up in that sea, the more it stagnates and the less that it helps anyone. If that money is going to be of any benefit, that money has to flow and not just get locked away. And that's the problem with that model of economy.
The first rule of a fetid pool of water is that it is still. It is held in stasis. That's what gets it fetid.
Even beavers, when they're building their ponds, allow certain places for the water to flow through. They dam up the places that they need to contain what water they have, but the water will overtop or go through other places and continue to flow. They're not stopping the water. They're collecting the water and letting it to continue to flow through, which creates these beautiful natural ecosystems that don't become those fetid swamps where everything just decays. We need to learn so much from nature. I hope that you have enjoyed this episode. I would love to know in what ways you are re-enchanting your own life. Do let me know down in the chat. Let me know down in the comments. If you're listening to us on YouTube or Spotify, you can leave a comment right there. If you're listening to us anywhere else, even if they say you can leave comments, they will not let us know, so we won't know that you did it. So you leave a comment there anyway, because engagement is magic. And then head over to creationspaths.com. Click on chat, and you can leave your comment there. I'd love to know what your thoughts are about this. And also, don't forget, we're going to be doing a Q&A episode at the end of this Druidcraft 101 series. And so if you have any questions about any of the things that we've said, or any of the things that are in the book, Druidcraft by Philip Cargam, that we're reading for this series, put them in the comments so that we can be sure to answer them at the end. Okay? Thank you so very much to everybody who's doing that. While you're there, if you happen to have a few dollars you can pass our way, we offer monthly and annual subscriptions. You can also support us on Patreon and Ko-fi. I am CE Dorset on both. And through Ko-fi, you can actually do one-time donations. Thank you to everybody who does that. And if you don't have any money right now, or you're not sure we're the kind of people you want to give your hard-earned treasure to, I completely understand that, and that's perfectly all right. But if any of the episodes that we've done have helped you out, or you think you know other people that would be interested in them, please share. That helps us out more than you possibly know. And as we are heading out, and I'm probably going to do this for all of the Druidcraft 101s, just to let you know how sweet Bridget, who guides us through all of our trials and tribulations of life, and who teaches us to manage those things in our life that give our lives meaning, prosperity, and joy. Place your mantle of protection above us so that we might be safe in the world that we are living in, and teach us to see the various currents that will help get us to the places that we need to go. Amen.
Amen.